She thought she'd been stood up, again. Another attempt at love collapsing before it even began. Savannah Reed sat alone in the corner booth of Everwood Coffee House. Her peppermint mocha long gone cold, her heart sinking with every glance at the door. 6:42 p.m., 12 minutes late. Around her, couples laughed softly, sharing pastries and whispering secrets. She was the only person sitting by herself. Maybe Jenna had been wrong. Maybe Savannah wasn't ready to date again. Not after 2 years of rebuilding her confidence piece by shattered piece. 5 more minutes, she told herself. Just 5. Then she'd go home, close her dating apps, and forget this ever happened. And then the bell above the cafe door chimed. Savannah looked up, hope flickering despite every instinct telling her not to. But it wasn't a handsome man in his 30s. It wasn't Nathan Hale, the blind date her coworker swore was perfect for her. It was 2 little boys. 2 identical twins, maybe 7 years old, with wild dark hair, pale skin, and piercing gray eyes that looked far too old for their faces. They stood in the doorway like tiny soldiers on a mission, scanning the room with unsettling precision. Their eyes locked on her. Before we dive back into the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll be sharing another exciting story tomorrow, and you definitely don't want to miss it. Before Savannah could make sense of it, they marched straight to her booth and stopped at her table. "Are you Miss Savannah?" the taller one asked, voice steady, almost formal. Savannah blinked. Yes? "I'm Mason," he announced. He gestured to his brother. "This is Micah. Our daddy's late." Savannah stared. Daddy? Nathan had kids? Jenna never mentioned that. Micah slid onto the seat across from her with a seriousness that didn't match his small frame. "We came to tell you we're sorry." Daddy didn't want to be late, Mason added quickly. He was excited. He circled today on the calendar 3 times. "He changed shirts a lot," Micah whispered. "Like, a lot." Savannah almost smiled, but the smile faded when Mason clasped his hands like he was preparing to deliver a hard truth. "Miss Savannah," he said, "Daddy doesn't know we're here." Her heart jumped. What? Then who brought you?" "Our babysitter," Micah said, pointing out the window at an elderly woman watching them nervously from a parked car. "We told her it was important." Mason leaned closer. "We should tell her everything." Micah elbowed him. "Not yet," but Mason shook his head with a sigh far too old for a child. "She deserves to know the truth." Savannah's skin prickled. "What truth?" Their eyes met, storm gray and strangely ancient. Finally, Mason whispered, "Daddy isn't late because he forgot." Micah's voice trembled. "He's late because he's trying not to hurt anyone." Savannah's breath caught. The boy's pupils narrowed, thin, predatory slits. "Miss Savannah," they said softly, in perfect unison, "our daddy is the Vampire King, and he really hopes you'll give him another chance." Savannah's heart thudded once, hard, before logic kicked in. Vampire King, feeding, pupils shifting. It had to be some elaborate prank, or an overactive imagination from 2 boys who clearly needed stricter bedtime rules. But then Micah spoke again, softer this time, almost pleading. "Please don't leave. He really wanted tonight." Mason nodded, his small hands gripping the edge of the table. He practiced what to say in the mirror. "We saw him." He never does that. The cafe noise faded, cups clinking, jazz humming overhead, until it was just Savannah and these 2 unsettling, heartbreaking little boys. And she couldn't ignore the truth. They weren't lying. They were scared. "Okay," Savannah said gently, exhaling. If your dad is really in trouble, let's talk about it. What's going on? Where is he? The boys exchanged a secret twin communication, silent, quick, loaded with meaning. Then Mason reached forward and took Savannah's hand, his small fingers ice cold. "He's at the Evergreen Cemetery," Mason said. Savannah froze. "Why would he be there?" "Because that's where he feeds safely," Micah whispered, "by the south gate, away from people." Savannah pulled her hand back slowly. "Boys, that's not something a human—" "He's not human," Mason said without blinking. Micah swallowed hard. "Not anymore." Savannah stared at them, her throat tightening. Their eyes, not just gray but stormy and deep, held something ancient, something wounded, something that made the shadows under their eyes look like battles fought in nightmares she couldn't imagine. "Daddy doesn't want to be a monster," Mason murmured. "He fights it every day." Micah leaned closer. "Tonight, he's fighting too hard. That's why we came to get you." "Me?" Savannah whispered. "Why me?" "Because you're the one he circled," Micah said. 3 times. "He only circles things when he hopes," Mason added. Something warm flickered in her chest again, quickly smothered by fear. She didn't believe in vampires. She didn't believe in destinies. She believed in peppermint mochas, and bad dates, and the heartbreak of loving someone who never loved her enough. But the boys, they believed in her. And against her better judgment, she believed them. Savannah stood slowly. "Take me to him." The boys jumped off their seats with surprising speed, grabbing their coats. Mason pointed toward the window again. "Mrs. Porter will drive. She thinks we're going to see Daddy at work." Micah tugged Savannah's hand. "Please don't be scared. He won't hurt you." Savannah didn't answer. Because as they stepped outside into the cold Washington night, a thick fog began rolling over the quiet streets, swirling, creeping, swallowing the lamplights one by one. And Savannah felt it. A pull, a whisper, a coldness blooming at the edge of her soul. Something in the darkness knew she was coming. Micah squeezed her hand gently. "Daddy will hear your heartbeat when we get close." Savannah stiffened. "What does that mean?" Mason looked up at her, expression solemn. "It means," he said quietly, "he'll know you're the one who came for him." And with that, their journey to the Evergreen Cemetery, and into the world Savannah never knew existed, began. The car crawled through the fog like it was pushing against something alive. Mrs. Porter gripped the steering wheel tightly, her eyes darting to the rearview mirror where Savannah sat with the boys pressed against her sides. "You sure your father is here, boys?" Mrs. Porter asked, voice trembling. "Yes, ma'am," Mason said calmly. "He always uses the south gate." Micah added, "It's safer. Fewer people, less temptation." Savannah didn't want to ask what temptation meant. Her heartbeat was already pounding so loudly she swore the fog pulsed with it. When the car stopped, the cemetery gate loomed ahead, tall, black iron, wrapped in mist. The air was thick and unnervingly cold. Mason nudged her. "He's close." Savannah swallowed. "How do you know?" Micah pointed to his ears. "We can hear him." Mrs. Porter stayed in the car as Savannah stepped out, the gravel crunching under her feet. The twins took her hands and led her toward a small clearing, lit only by a flickering security lamp. And there, shadowed beneath an old cedar tree, stood a man. Tall, broad-shouldered, shirt partially unbuttoned like he'd rushed out the door. His hair was dark and tousled, and even from a distance, Savannah could see his chest rising and falling with sharp, struggling breaths. Nathan Hale. But this wasn't the man she expected to meet in a coffee shop. His eyes glowed faint red, like embers refusing to die. His jaw clenched. His hands trembled at his sides, fighting something invisible but immense. "Daddy!" the boys shouted. Nathan's head snapped up. He saw them, and panic rippled across his face. "Boys, no! Get back!" His voice was rough, deeper than human, shaking with desperation. "You shouldn't be here." Savannah froze as his gaze finally landed on her, and everything stopped. Nathan staggered back a step, horrified. "Savannah? God, no. They brought you here?" "We had to," Mason said. "You were losing control." Micah added, "She can help you." Nathan shut his eyes, fists tightening. "You don't understand what I am right now." Savannah forced herself to breathe. "Then tell me." His eyes opened, full crimson now, glowing, ancient. "I'm starving," he whispered, "and I am not safe." The wind howled through the cemetery like something warning her to run. But Savannah didn't move, because even with darkness pulsing through him, Nathan looked terrified of hurting her, not hungry, not predatory. Terrified. She stepped closer. "Nathan," she said softly, "look at me." The boys stood perfectly still, watching with breathless trust. Nathan's voice cracked. "Savannah, you shouldn't be anywhere near me. I'm fighting every instinct I have not to—" "I know," she whispered, "but I'm here." Something inside him snapped, not with violence but surrender. He fell to his knees in the cold grass, chest heaving, hands clawing the dirt as he fought himself. "Please," Nathan choked out, "don't be afraid of me." Savannah knelt too, her hand trembling as she placed it on his shoulder. "I'm not." And the moment her skin touched him, the fog around them surged as if the night itself recognized the beginning of something dangerous and undeniable. Nathan's body stilled under her touch, not calm, but controlled, barely. He lifted his head, breath trembling as his eyes faded from red to a muted, exhausted silver. "I shouldn't have let them bring you," he rasped. "You shouldn't see me like this." Savannah kept her hand on his shoulder. "Then, help me understand." Mason stepped forward. "Daddy, she needs to know." Micah nodded. "Tell her everything." Nathan's expression twisted with pain, not physical, but the kind that came from memory. Slowly, he rose to his feet. Savannah stood too. The boys moved to stand beside him, each gripping one of his hands. "I didn't choose this," Nathan began. "Not the hunger, not the crown, not the bloodline." Savannah stayed silent, letting him speak. "My wife, Laura, she was born into the Hale line, one of the oldest vampire families in America. She carried the burden, not me." His gaze softened painfully. "When she died protecting our boys, the crown passed to me." Savannah's heart squeezed. She protected them from what? Nathan looked toward the fog, voice dropping. "From my own people. A faction who believed the twins should be taken, raised by the court, molded into weapons." Micah shivered. Mason squeezed his hand. "I ran," Nathan continued. "I hid them among humans. I lived quietly, fed safely, controlled the hunger." "But the court found you," Savannah said. "They never stopped hunting us," Nathan replied. "Tonight, I felt them close, too close." Savannah's pulse spiked. "So you came to the cemetery?" "To starve the instincts," Nathan said. "To keep anyone safe from me if control slipped." Savannah's voice softened. "And your boys thought I could help." Nathan laughed softly, brokenly. "I don't know why they chose you." "We do," Mason said simply. Micah nodded. "You were kind before you even met Daddy. We heard you talking to Jenna. You wanted a new start, so does he." Savannah's breath caught. Nathan looked away. "I'm dangerous, Savannah." You're also a father, she said, and you're fighting harder than most humans I know. The fog swirled again, darker this time. Nathan's jaw tightened. We need to leave. Something followed me here. Savannah's fear spiked, but she grabbed his hand. I'm not running. Nathan stared at her like she was something impossible. Mason whispered, Told you she was brave. Micah added, Mom would have liked her. Nathan inhaled sharply, hurt, love, loss flickering across his face. When he looked at Savannah again, something inside him had shifted. Trust, fear, hope. Savannah, he said, voice raw. If you stay with us, your life will never be the same. Savannah squeezed his hand. Maybe that's the point. Behind them, deep in the fog, something growled, and the night answered.